There's something off about this apartment. Not the creaky walls or the weird smell. It's the man in 2B. He smiles too much. Your like will be the lock that keeps him in his room tonight. Subscribe to Ultra Spooky for stories that never let you sleep again. I moved into the apartment building on Rillard Street because it was cheap and close to work. The place was old, peeling paint, buzzing hallway lights, but livable. My unit 2A shared a wall with 2B, and from day one, I noticed something strange. My neighbor would stand outside his door and smile. Just smile. Not at anyone. Not at anything. Just staring straight ahead with this stiff wax doll grin. I tried greeting him once. "Hey." He turned his head slowly, eyes fixed. The smile didn't change, didn't move, didn't even twitch. I laughed nervously and went inside. That night, around 2:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound behind my bedroom wall, soft thuds, like someone slamming their forehead against it. Repeated, measured. I banged back. It stopped. Next morning, I asked the landlord. "Oh, the guy in 2B, he said. "No one's rented that unit since January. We sealed it off. Mold issue." I stared at him. "I just saw him last night." The landlord frowned. "Impossible. The keys are locked up. No one should be in there." I asked to see it. He reluctantly agreed. We opened 2B that afternoon. It was empty. The walls were swollen with mold, windows black with grime. The floorboards were warped, rotting. No furniture, no lights, no sign of life. But in the far corner was a single footprint, a wet one. That night I blocked off the wall with furniture, kept the lights on, stayed awake. Around 3:12 a.m., my bedroom light flickered, and I heard it again. Thud, thud, thud. I held my breath. The sound stopped. Then came something worse. A voice, right against the wall. "Why aren't you smiling?" I bolted. I stayed in a hotel. Called the landlord. He swore up and down it was impossible. But I begged him to bring someone to reseal 2B. 2 nights later, I returned. 2A was quieter. The wall had new drywall, sealed tight. But as I turned the key, I noticed something odd on the hallway floor. Another footprint. Wet. Facing my door. I moved out the next day. A month later, I checked the apartment listings out of curiosity. 2B was available again. The photo on the listing showed the front door, and just barely visible behind the peephole was a man, smiling. That smile still shows up in nightmares. And that footprint, it followed me. Last week I found one on my bathroom mirror. Like this video to keep him out of your home tonight. Subscribe to Ultra Spooky. We tell the stories the shadows whisper. I needed a couch. Just moved to a new city. Money was tight. Craigslist was my best bet. I found a listing. Free couch. Must pick up today. No holds. It looked decent. Slightly worn. Dark red velvet, Victorian style. The kind you'd find in some Gothic mansion. But hey, free is free. I messaged the guy. He replied almost instantly. All yours. Just don't keep anything you find inside. Odd. I figured maybe old change or crumbs. Whatever. The pickup was in a quiet suburb. The house looked abandoned. Overgrown lawn. Faded paint. But I needed that couch. The guy wasn't home. Just left it on the porch, wrapped in plastic. Took me forever to get it into my second-floor apartment. But finally I had a couch. That night I passed out on it watching TV. I woke up at 3:12 a.m., freezing cold. The lights were off. The TV was static. And something was pressing into my lower back. Hard. I reached under the cushions and pulled out a small envelope. Inside, a Polaroid photo. A girl, maybe 10 years old, sitting on the same couch. But the background wasn't my apartment. It was a basement. Her hands were tied, her face terrified. There was writing on the back. She wouldn't stop screaming. I threw the photo across the room. No way this was real. I ripped off the cushions, pulled the couch apart, and found more. Dozens of Polaroids, kids, teenagers, all on the same couch. Some crying, some gagged, some not moving at all. That's when the smell hit me, like rot. And beneath the wooden frame, a hidden compartment, nailed shut. I pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside, a tape recorder, a strip of leather, and a braid of blonde hair, still tied with a pink ribbon. I called the cops. They arrived. Took everything, asked 1,000 questions. Later, an officer pulled me aside. This couch, we've been looking for it, belonged to a guy named Don Whitlow. Serial abductor back in the 90s, never caught. Victims were always found on this couch. But he was never found? The cop shook his head. Disappeared. Along with the couch, I sold everything. Moved out. Weeks later, I got a text from an unknown number. Thanks for finding my stuff. She was the loudest of them all. Blocked the number. Burned the SIM. I still haven't bought another couch. I moved into the apartment on a Thursday, a rundown unit on the edge of the city, tucked above an old bookstore that always smelled like wet paper. The place had been vacant for months. The landlord, a wiry man with stained teeth and a shaking hand, told me the last tenant had left unexpectedly. When I asked what that meant, he gave a half shrug and muttered something about missed payments and a wellness check. But I was broke, and it was cheap, so I took it. The first night was uneventful, just the usual creaks of a building settling in, cars honking in the distance, wind brushing against windows like fingers looking for a way in. On the second night, I opened the closet in the bedroom to make space for my clothes. That's when I found it, a dusty, duct-taped cardboard box shoved into the far corner. No labels, no writing, just sitting there like it had been waiting. Naturally, I opened it. Inside were Polaroids, dozens of them. The top layer showed nothing unusual. Snapshots of a dim living room, maybe late 80s style. Old TV set, sagging couch, dusty shelves. All photos were taken from the same angle, from the hallway, just before the living room opened up, almost like someone had been hiding behind the corner. As I flipped through, my stomach slowly tightened. In some photos, the room was empty. Then, as I kept flipping, a man appeared. In one, he was watching TV. Another showed him eating from a bowl. Then sleeping on the couch, talking on the phone. The photos followed no clear timeline, no progression. But in every one, the angle remained unchanged, always from the shadows of the hallway. Then came the second-to-last photo. The man was sitting upright on the couch, but he wasn't watching TV anymore. He was looking directly at the camera, eyes wide, face twisted into something between horror and confusion, his mouth slightly open like he just gasped. And the final photo? The couch was empty, but something new had appeared on the living room floor. A cardboard box, duct-taped shut. I dropped the photos. My mind raced. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe the previous tenant was some kind of weird artist. That night I barely slept. Every noise felt amplified. Floorboards groaning, walls breathing, the clock ticking too slow. Around 2:40 a.m. I got up to drink water, but as I passed the hallway leading to my living room, I stopped. There was a figure sitting on the couch, just barely visible in the moonlight. I stood there, heart thudding so loud it felt like it echoed in my throat. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. But the figure did. It slowly turned toward me. I slammed the bedroom door shut and didn't come out until daylight. I went to the living room in the morning. The couch was empty, but right where the figure had sat in the exact spot from the photos was a box. A cardboard one, duct taped shut. Every kid has imaginary friends. But what if your imaginary friend left footprints in the mud? What if she whispered things about your parents that she wasn't supposed to know? This isn't imagination. It's someone waiting to be remembered. Your like will be the only thing that keeps her buried. Subscribe to Ultra Spooky before she starts whispering your name again. I was 6 when I met her. Sally. She stood behind the wooden fence at the back of our property. Never on our side. Never close enough to touch, but always there. Our house bordered a dense thicket of woods in rural Pennsylvania. We moved there in the summer of 1999, just after my dad got a job at the power plant in Monroe County. It was the kind of place with cracked driveways, pickup trucks on cinder blocks, and neighbors you never really met. But to me it was a new world. I was small for my age, quiet, the kind of kid who kept to himself and talked to bugs. My only sibling was my baby brother, Evan, who was still in diapers. So when I saw Sally standing beyond the fence, arms crossed, feet bare, her white dress blowing like a flag in the wind, I assumed she was real. Just another girl from somewhere nearby. She never called out to me. Not at first. The second week we lived there, I saw her again. Same spot, same dress, same silence. She didn't blink much. Just stared. I finally got the courage to wave. She tilted her head, then said so softly I almost missed it, "Don't play near the shed. There are nails." That same day, I wandered near the dilapidated tool shed behind our garage. The roof sagged. My curiosity got the better of me. I pushed the door open. The smell of oil and mildew hit me like a slap. I stepped in. Something caught the bottom of my shoe and I tripped. My hand slammed against a wooden board and pain shot through my palm. A nail, rusted, bent upward like a fang. I screamed. My mom ran out. I needed a tetanus shot. The doctor said I was lucky. That night I stood at the back door and stared toward the woods. She was there again, still watching. Sally started visiting more often. She never crossed the fence. She never came closer. But she knew things. You're going to lose your tooth tomorrow. Don't eat the yogurt. It's expired. Your mom cries when you're asleep. Sometimes she was wrong, but mostly she was right. I told my parents about her. They chalked it up to imagination. My mom called it a phase. My dad didn't even acknowledge it. Kids see ghosts, monsters, friends who aren't there. He'll grow out of it. One night, I asked Sally why she didn't have parents. She said, "They forgot me." I started avoiding the backyard. At first, it was just a bad feeling, like something waited out there. But then I started noticing small things. The grass along the fence grew faster, thicker, darker. The wind didn't move the trees behind her. And whenever Sally was there, the birds stopped singing. One afternoon, while my mom was napping, I saw Evan toddling toward the back door. He was pushing it open, heading outside. I raced after him. He was halfway across the lawn, heading straight for the fence. Sally was waiting, and for the first time she stepped over the fence. Just one leg. Her foot hovered above the grass. Something about it didn't look right. The skin on her leg was grayish, swollen, like it had been soaked in water for too long. I grabbed Evan and yanked him backward. He screamed, but I didn't stop. I carried him inside, locked the door, and closed the blinds. When I looked again, Sally was gone. My mom had a vanity drawer where she kept her old journals. One night I snuck in while she and Dad were arguing downstairs. Something was telling me, pushing me to look. In the back of one of her notebooks, dated in the late 80s, I found this line. Saw her again, behind the fence. Thin white dress, no shoes. Evan says her name is Sally, but I never told him. My hands froze. I flipped through more pages. There were drawings, childlike. A girl with no eyes, a dress with dirt stains, a mouth like a crescent moon, and one line written in shaky pen. We should have moved sooner. I slammed the drawer shut. The next morning I asked her, "Who's Evan?" She dropped the coffee pot. It shattered across the floor. Later that week I asked our neighbor, Mrs. Kildare, about the house. She'd lived down the road for 50 years, her back hunched, hands stained with soil from a lifetime of gardening. When I mentioned Sally, her expression died. "Your family. You bought the Hammond place, didn't you?" I nodded. She swallowed hard. "They never found the body. That's what haunted folks the most." "Whose body?" "The little girl. Sally Hammond. She went missing in '82, only 6. Parents said she wandered into the woods. Search teams looked for weeks. Dogs, helicopters, volunteers, nothing. She leaned closer, her breath like copper and mothballs. But her mother swore she still saw her. In the yard, standing at the fence, watching. One night I woke up to the sound of rain. I padded to the kitchen for water. Lightning cracked. It lit up the entire backyard, and I saw her, standing just outside the window. But this time, her face was wrong. It was sagging on one side, like half of it had been underwater too long. Her mouth hung open slightly. Her tongue was black, and her hands were pressed flat against the glass. I dropped the cup. It shattered. When my dad came running, I pointed at the window. She was gone, but the handprints were still there. Small, wet, too small to be mine, too big to be Evan's. They didn't fade until morning. They never found Evan. The police came, dogs, drones, divers. They dragged the creek, tore through the woods, nothing. My parents were never the same. My dad drank more. My mom started seeing a grief counselor in the city. The house rotted in silence, but I saw her. Again and again, every week. She didn't smile anymore. Her dress was darker now, dirt-stained, torn, and her hands. They weren't hands anymore. They were long, like root branches, fingers like claws, stained with soil. Black mud dripped from under her fingernails. Sometimes I'd wake up and smell wet wood and old earth. Sometimes I'd hear scratching at the windows. Sometimes I'd hear a child crying softly. From beneath the house. A year later, my parents sold the house. We moved 2 towns over. Started fresh. My dad refused to mention Evan. My mom kept a framed photo hidden behind her clothes, like she couldn't bear to look, but couldn't throw it away either. I went to therapy. The doctor said it was survivor's guilt. A traumatic disappearance often results in displaced memory, phantom guilt, and fabricated imagery. The girl was a metaphor, but metaphors don't leave muddy handprints on your backpack, or whisper your name when you're falling asleep, or mimic your little brother's voice behind your bedroom wall. 3 years later, while unpacking decorations from our basement closet, my mom found a box labeled Playroom, Monroe House. She hadn't remembered packing it. Inside was a small white sock, one of Evan's, a set of crayons, and something that made her drop the box. It was a photograph of me, standing in the backyard. Behind me, partially obscured by the fence, was a blurry gray-skinned girl. Black eyes, and next to her, something crouching, child-sized, unfocused. But it wore Evan's favorite pajamas. We tried to burn the photo. It wouldn't catch. The flame curled around the edges but refused to take. The crayon drawings started to appear again, on my bedroom walls. on the back of notebooks, even on the fogged mirror after showers. Stick figures. A boy, a girl, a tall shape. Sometimes I'd see 3 faces drawn in a circle, 2 crossed out. Sometimes I'd hear tapping under the floorboards. Sometimes I tapped back. I'm 24 now, live alone. No kids, no relationships. I don't talk to my parents. Not since my mom tried to hang herself in the bathroom and carved, "She followed" into the door frame. Sometimes I wake up with dirt under my fingernails, or muddy water pooled at the foot of my bed, and I still see her, Sally. Not every night, but often enough that I keep the curtains closed and never look out the back. Last week a package showed up, no return address. Inside was a photo, Evan, standing at the fence, holding hands with Sally, and behind them both, something new, taller, faceless. The back of the photo said, "He listens now."